after two presidential elections. Former presidential candidate Mitt Romney knows how to take a punch, but he's about to take on the fight of his life in a charity boxing match against Evander Holyfield. Now, that's why we were in the ring. We were going through some training. I made a trip out to Utah to see him in a great gym, Gene Fulmer's gym, a legendary boxer, for a sneak peek at his training. But first, and you'll see that later in the week, but first we sat down for a serious conversation about what's happening in the country and what's happening in politics. Listen.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
What's happening in Baltimore and the subsequent unrest in New York and Philadelphia and other major cities, much like what we saw in Ferguson, we're seeing a bit of a pattern here.
One story is you've got people across the country that are concerned about circumstances where excessive force has been used. And people are demonstrating their First Amendment rights, and that's laudable. At the same time, you also have some people who are taking advantage of this to do some terrible things. There's no excuse for that. This is really a breakdown of society in many respects.
Does your gut instinct tell you, with the leadership that you've acquired and the ability and the things that you have done, tell you that the mayor of Baltimore did the right thing in saying that I'm going to get justice for Freddie Gray and not talk about an investigation for the 6 officers who have been suspended and possibly will end up in jail? Do their lives matter too?
You know, I think people who are in a position of authority should stand by the police officers and the justice system and the rights of the accused, and they should not jump to conclusions if they possibly can avoid that. At the same time, I think it's appropriate for elected officials to say, we have problems in our cities. These are things we need to address. Here's how I propose to address them. But there's no question the president has to be watching this with great concern. I presume he is.
Right.
And trust that there are going to be some changes to our policing systems.
Hillary Clinton weighed in on it.
Without the mass incarceration that we currently practice, millions fewer people would be living in poverty.
Tell me what you think.
Well, I was concerned that her comments really smacked of politicization of the terrible tragedies that are going on there.
In what way?
When she said, look, we're not going to have mass incarcerations in the future, it's like, what is she referring to? We don't have mass incarcerations in America. Individuals are brought before tribunals and they have counsel, they're given certain rights. Are we not going to lock people up who commit crimes? Is that what she's suggesting? I mean, I thought it was a very inappropriate thing for her to do, and I think it was political in nature to try and get more support in the African American community, and I think it was a big mistake on her part and simply wrong. One thing we know is that there was mayhem on the streets of Baltimore. That we know. And that's an area where we're going to have to take corrective action. And I believe the kinds of changes I've spoken about to help people in their homes and education and jobs and discipline and two-parent families, that's something we have got to do instead of just talking about it.
As we switch to politics now, I looked at you and I talked to your wife, Ann, and I thought there was no way there'll be a third run for president. Then something happened a couple of months ago, and you really thought about it. What brought you like a magnet possibly back into this thing?
Well, both Ann and I were pleased to have so many people suggest that they'd like to see us run again, and that obviously opened our eyes a bit to potentially running again. And I think we're very anxious to make sure that we win and we get someone who can actually beat the Democratic nominee, and we wondered, might that be me? Might I be the best one to carry the torch? And so we looked at it for 2 or 3 weeks and concluded, you know what? It's probably best for someone new to come along, someone who's not in my political generation, someone new, and that's whether that's Jeb or that's Chris Christie or Carly Fiorina, Marco Rubio, Scott Walker. We get a lot of people who are at the point where they would be new faces and could potentially bring the kind of energy and passion to a campaign that would make us successful.
Let's talk about Hillary Clinton.
Well, I think her campaign launch has been seriously hampered by the reality of her last several years. Frankly, her campaign launch has been so quiet because she doesn't want to talk to people right now. She can't face the media and ask the questions that are being asked.
Would you recommend the Republicans go after her and her candidacy, or focus on each other and the issues?
Well, of course, I'd like to see all the people in the race focused on Hillary Clinton and all hugging one another, but that's not the reality of politics. These 16 folks are going to have to describe where they're the right one to get the nomination and the other person is not. that'll be part of the process, and we'll be focusing, I'm sure, as well on Secretary Clinton. She'll get a lot of comment in Republican debates, but both things are going to occur, I think, in the process.
Very nice of him to sit down. The ring is because on October 15th, he's going to be fighting Holyfield, and he was going through, that's the first box training he's ever done. He's taken on a 5-time heavyweight champ, actually in a multi-round fight, and that's, he's working out right now at the Gene Fulner gym. And we're going to show some of that tomorrow, and we'll get into detail.
So let me get this straight, Brian. Mitt Romney has never fought before, and his opponent is going to be?
It's going to be Evander Holyfield.
Wow. Can we place bets on this?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, blame Josh. Josh has came up with this idea. He's like, I love Charity Vision. I want to earn some money. Dad, you want a box? He goes, sure. Who? He goes, well, I have Holyfield's cell phone.
Why not?
So he got Holyfield on the phone.
Great sit down with him,
real
by
quick,
the way.
he will not say anything negative, and you can understand about any Republican candidate. We tried to do a give and take. My hunch, just my gut feeling, is he really has an attraction to Rubio. I really feel as though that's his guy. And his one-on-one with Jeb Bush convinced him not to go forward because he said he needed some answers from Jeb that he's going to run a campaign that could be successful.
Great. Okay, great sit down, Brian.
Good job flying out to Utah to get that.
It was good. Very nice of them. And you're going to hear from Ann Romney later this week. She's got an important message,
Fantastic.
too. Fantastic.